What's up, guys? Stinger911 here. Now, if you read the title of the video, you may be saying to yourself, Ubisoft respects my intelligence? Yeah, right. They put out The Division. But there is a caveat to my title. I'm specifically talking about Ubisoft Montreal. Ubisoft Massive made The Division, Ubisoft Montreal made Rainbow Six Siege, and Ubisoft Montreal is making For Honor as we speak. The reason I say that Ubisoft Montreal respects your intelligence is because it's evident in their game design. If you look at Rainbow Six Siege, every action you take has a consequence, and those consequences can be dire. Something as seemingly insignificant as making a small hole in the wall can have huge consequences. First of all, it'll allow you to hear whoever's on the other side of the wall better, since the sound permeates through the holes that you make. It will also allow an enemy to come up to the wall, look at you, use that hole as a peephole, and then mow you down through it. That's huge. That's from making a tiny hole in the wall. Now imagine this scenario. Imagine you're a rook. You put down the armor. Of course, there's that one guy who's in his own world. He doesn't know what's going on. Maybe it's his second game ever. So he doesn't pick up the armor, right? Now fast forward. It's a 1v1. It's down to you and, I don't know, Thermite? Thermite comes in, he grabs that armor that your teammate didn't take, he equips it, you get into a gunfight with Thermite, he barely wins, he escapes with like 8 health, so one more bullet would have put him away. Moral of the story, your teammate, who didn't take your armor, allowed Thermite to take it and survive. Something as insignificant as not picking up a piece of armor can have dire consequences and win or lose a match. This same principle of every action having the potential for dramatic consequences is mirrored in For Honor. The game is punishing. One missed input and you could be dead. One step to the left instead of to the right and you can be pushed off a cliff. One mistimed parry when you have an axe bearing down on your head and you're a goner. Ubisoft Montreal has absolutely no willingness to hold your hand and baby you and coddle you and tell you it's okay, you're gonna be alright, you're gonna respawn in just a few seconds. Oh, you got damaged really badly? Well, don't worry, just go sit in a corner. Your health is gonna regenerate and you'll be a-okay. No, that's not happening with Ubisoft Montreal. If you get hit, you're gonna hurt. If you get pushed off a cliff, deal with it. I love it. Now you may be asking yourself, Stinger, why would you like something like that? Why would you like the developers to be mean to the player base? And I'll tell you why. For one simple reason. Tension. If what I do doesn't have any consequences, and developers are content to hold my hand and baby me every step of the way, then why should I be invested in what I'm doing? The simple answer is, I won't be. And this is something so many modern games get wrong. Think back to the 8-bit era, the 16-bit era. While many of those games were notoriously difficult, it was actually rewarding to beat them. Get to the last stage on Ninja Gaiden with 1 point of health left, and boy, would your hands be sweaty. That's because those older games were great at creating tension. They kind of had to. If those games were easy and allowed you to breeze through them in an afternoon, then you wouldn't have felt like you really got your money's worth. But if they took you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get through, well then, that's a pretty good return on investment. My overall point here is that the game developers of old incidentally created tension through their implementation of high difficulty. These days, developers are not in the same conundrum. They don't have to make hard games in order to artificially lengthen the experience. They can do other things. They can add more content. They can add more maps. They can add more missions. So, the decision to make a game unforgiving today is a conscious one, and it's not a necessary one in order to lengthen the experience as it was in the past. It's also a decision that points to the developer's belief in the player's ability to navigate the mechanics. It's a sort of trust that isn't often given these days by modern developers. Modern developers tend to assume the worst about players. They'll drop you into a tutorial that teaches you the basics of how to walk. If you're in a third or first person shooter, they'll tell you push the left stick to walk forward, push the left stick left to go left. They want to cover all these bases because they assume the absolute worst about a player, that you have no eyes, no ears, you're walking through the world bumping into things. That is what most developers believe about the player. They don't respect your intelligence, and they're worried that if they don't spell things out to you, A to B to C to D to E to F, then you're going to become frustrated and you're going to blame the game. You're going to get angry at them. You're not going to buy their game anymore. It's an unfortunate, sad reality, but let me tell you, it is so encouraging to see at least one developer stepping out of that mold and saying, hey, wait a minute, our players are competent people. I'm sure they can navigate life without wearing a bubble around themselves. Like, they'll be okay. We'll just set them free. We'll give them a basic explanation of the mechanics, and then we'll open up the sandbox to them, and we'll see what they do. We'll let them impress us with their exploration and their creativity. That is so refreshing. You never see that anymore, and that's something that I hope continues to be a trend. Like I said, it's definitely evident in Rainbow Six Siege, and it's definitely evident in For Honor. The danger here is that you will have outliers who simply are overwhelmed by these games. You will have people who come into Rainbow Six Siege and they're like, what am I doing? And they're spinning around, looking at the ceiling, and they just get killed by somebody they never see, and they rage quit the game and they never come back. It is a valid concern that some players will take longer to acclimate than others, and they may be driven off. However, I think that's a very small fraction of players, and the majority of players appreciate the trust that the developers have given them. We appreciate the freedom that we've been given, the total lack of restriction to explore the mechanics at our own pace. This has been my explanation of how Ubisoft respects your intelligence. My name is Stinger911. Until next time, farewell.